Hey, what's going on, guys? Your boy, Adi. Welcome back to the garden. And today, what I want to do is, hmm, what I want to do is I want to talk about some books that have influenced me over the years, like some real good books. You know, I'm not gonna lie, it's like my second time getting this, trying to get this video out, just because as I think books come back to me. And that's the nice thing about reading books. Sometimes a book will come back to you in the form of some saying that you read in a book. And sometimes that can be the difference between like you doing some crazy shit and you not doing some crazy shit. And that's like the very generic reason why people should read. But, let's just get into this. I want to start by saying, like, I know this is going to sound like kind of cliche, but I want to start with The Secret. The Secret. I forgot the who made the book, but it's called The Secret. It's about synchronicity. Um it's about connections esoterically, like connections in ways that you can't quite see or understand. Like I remember one time I was working at a hospital as a food service technician, and there'll be times where I was working in that job and I would look out the window and be like, yo, this can't be my life. Like I don't want to do this. Even though low key it was a blessing to even have that job, because it was a highly sought after job, because you can really set yourself up in that hospital and move up. But I wanted something different out of life. So I remember one day, I don't know why, my mother had the book and I picked it up, and I like this was the first time I ever did this. The Secret was the first book I sat down and read from beginning to finish, because I demanded myself to, like, I wanted to read this book. I wanted to know what was in this book. And I remember I sat outside my college for like damn near the whole day, like a couple hours. I want to say like 4, maybe 6 hours, doing nothing but read that book. And like digesting a book like that, I never digested a book like that. I would just do assignments, read a chapter for like college, shit like that. But to sit down and to really just sit down and read that book, bro, man, it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing, man. In the idea that it was beautiful because that book was so eye opening. And I never understood that concept before. The book did a good job of explaining the concept, and that was kind of like my first introduction into spirituality or into like metaphysical stuff. That book. And then after that, I remember I had a I had a situation with one of my friends. Me and two of my friends took three girls to the beach at night. It was a whole movement. We went to a party, and then after the party, we just went to the beach. And it was a nice vibe. Everybody can just split off, go their own way, and whatever. And I remember that was the first night that I actually like truly took astrology like somewhat seriously. Even to this day, I don't truly take astrology serious. I don't truly take anything 100% like 100% seriously, 100% as truth. Everything has like bits and pieces of truth. And that night, he basically was channeling, because he was reading me. He was reading me. He was reading the girls. He was doing everything. Everything you can think of. Like everything you think of in terms of reading a person and being right, he was doing it. And he was even doing it with me. And I was uncomfortable in, saying that he was right in any way, shape, or form. I didn't want him to be right. I wanted him to just be wrong, just talking shit, and But I'm not gonna lie, what he was saying was on point. So I had like this latent interest in astrology, and one day I don't know what I was doing while I was in the mall that day, but one day I was in the mall and I walked past the Barnes and Nobles and I went inside. And I usually never go into the side of Barnes and Nobles, so it was something. Like I went in there. I don't know why I went in there, but I just went in there, and then I was like, "Yo, I want to get a book because I don't ever buy books, right?" So I wanted to buy a book finally, and the first book I ever bought was an astrology book. It was this big ass astrology book of birthdays, and every day is broken down. Like every page gets a day. It was a really awesome. It's a really awesome book. I have it until this day, and that was like basically the first my first steps into spirituality was that book, because even to this book, I always say that book is kind of accurate to a huge extent. And man, from that book I started to really dive deeper into like science. I was always into science and structure and analytical thinking and philosophy. I was always into that, but not at this point in my life. I wasn't really searching for that. I was not searching for that, and I feel like this is starting to turn into like my life story type shit, and I don't want it to be. I want to be. Let's be more focused on these books. So the next book was the birthday book, and I recommend all these books that I recommend. We're up to we said Secret, the birthday book. I recommend these books. Um, they are they are a reservoir of knowledge. They help me even to this day. All right. Let's be a little bit on point with this. The next book that I want to recommend is The 48 Laws of Power. So, The 48 Laws of Power was a good book for me because it taught me just like the dynamics that people use to get what they want in general. And one eye opening thing that came to me after just being with the book for a while is I begun to realize that everyone does the 48 laws of power subconsciously. Like there's a law or a few laws that everyone is doing subconsciously. And a lot of people think that when you get that book, you should be like trying to incorporate all the laws into your repertoire or incorporate the laws that you like. I would say not so much. You want to incorporate laws that you already do, learn their ins and outs, and the other laws that kind of act as countermeasures to the law that you already do. From there, you can understand like the framework of power in general. And like for example, never outshine the master is like the first law or something. And there's some people that never outshine the master and they do that naturally, right? Like there's some people that are just naturally like timid or naturally defer to people that consider themselves more powerful or more boisterous or just more bold in general, right? There's people that are just innately like that. Like that is in their nature. So within their nature in general is to never outshine the master. Like yeah, so like someone like a Varys. Varys is very good at this from Game of Thrones. He's very good at never outshining the person above him, but low key he is outshining you. He that law plays really well with this another law called playing the perfect quarter. Like that show House of Cards, playing the perfect chord. If you want to understand that law, watch House of Cards. Like you get to see like how the dynamics at which he uses to outmaneuver people just by being kind. He has a saying in there where he says we kill them with kindness. You know, the main character does this thing where he narrates like the intent of his people, his intent, the intent of the people talking to him. He just talks straight through you, kind of breaks the fourth wall and talks straight through you, straight to you. And you get to see the dynamics of the soft power that he's using. And that's soft power. Soft power is like you influencing someone without like straight up telling them. Like soft power is you mentioning a word, and now like the because of how you mentioned it, it stews in that person's mind. Like they ruminate on that more because of how you mentioned it. It gives them space to think and to come to a realization themselves. So that's basically soft power. But it's like you would have never even thought that. Like you would have never even went down that course of thinking, of critical thinking, if somebody didn't seed the idea. What seeded the idea? And then some people are very good at just seeding the idea. People like Varys and Littlefinger, particularly Littlefinger, very good at seeding ideas. Like he was doing that a lot with what's her name? Was it Anera or Sansa? He was doing that a lot with Sansa. So just those little scenes, you get to see the dynamics that he uses to get over on people. Like when he was talking about live your life like you've seen everything before. That way, everything is something that you've seen before. Something along those lines. Like he's basically saying like, if you live that way, that everything is like something that you've seen before. Like every possibility is something that you've kind of already dealt with already emotionally because you've already confronted it in your mind, so you know the things so you can like prep for the things that you need to say just to get yourself out of it, so you hide in plain sight type shit. Like that was Littlefinger, and the book kind of shows you the dynamics of soft power and like real power, like straight up physical power. um yeah, that's like the biggest thing I can say from that book. The biggest thing I can say, like just the ability to break down what you already do in your nature and then learn it to a deeper understanding, and then what it means about you, and then the counters to your nature, right? So for example, like one of the lines talks about like fortune favoring the bold, or don't build a fortress and lock yourself up in it, because you leave yourself vulnerable. This and the third, you're better off being amongst the people, so you understand. Like that's one of the laws, and you can see like how being a naturally timid person can set you up for being the downfall of that law, right? So you can see like how certain laws counteract your nature, and you need to be able to like circumvent those laws. Um, So that's just a little touch on the 48. I mean, maybe another day I'll talk about it more in detail. Like I'll have like detailed lists and I'll be able to touch on everything more in detail. Um, Another book that I will say really changed my perspective, changed my life. I would say the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is one of those books that I always end up coming back to. I always end up, um, I guess you can say, gauging my spiritual development to whatever the self realizations that I unlock from a time away from the Tao Te Ching, and then I come back to it to truly understand what it's saying. What is it? because the Tao Te Ching is said in such a way where you can get endless meaning from it, kind of like poetry. Like a really good poetry, like two people can hear the same poem and get two different things out of it. Like, I think that's like a really good poem where the mind decided to latch on to one thing while another decides to latch on to something else entirely. The Tao Te Ching is very much like that, where a line could set you up for rumination for the next 8 months. Like or a course of quotes in that book can set you up on a thinking journey, a thinking expedition, a living expedition. You can there's certain things that book says, and then you can like enact it in your life and then see the changes of what will happen in your life, and they're profound. They're very much profound. um, I more so listen to the Tao Te Ching than I read it, because I don't know, I do a lot of like meditation. So when I listen to it, I like to like sit down and just like brood on my thoughts and just listen to it, or meditate to some rain, listen to it, just get calm and tranquil and just listen to it, like kind of pretty much like take down all of my guards and really just allow myself to listen to it, because I think it's really I think it kind of purifies you in a way when you just listen to stuff like that. Another book that is like on the same level as the Tao Te Ching, if not higher for me, is the Dhammapada. I really enjoy the Dhammapada. That's one of my favorite books. It's one of those books that I always come back to, either to like look for a quote, or just listen to like a particular chapter or chapters, you know. Man, there's so many quotes from that book that I have like embedded into my psyche. And I that's the level that you want to reach with this stuff. Like the level, like for example, you see like in music, the music that you really like, sometimes the music that you really like can have things that you don't like in it. And by continuously perpetuating it, that thing that you don't like finds its way into your subconscious. You become more susceptible, more appeasable to that particular thing, just because it's been mentioned so many times. It's been mentioned ad nauseum. So you can't. So when it finally makes its way into your existence, it's not something that's outrageous to you. It's something you've seen before, right? The contextual awareness has expanded to allow this thing to not be a taboo, to be more so something that's just a part of the culture, right? Um, all that stuff is extremely dangerous. It plays on your subconscious, so it plays in ways that your conscious mind doesn't quite understand. So to counteract this, especially after a lifetime of listening to things that was playing on my subconscious in such a way where it was kind of stifling my perception on life itself, I made the conscious effort like 10 years ago to expand my perception, expand my vocabulary, expand my understanding of the English language. And by doing so, by reading more, by listening more, I've developed my perceptual capacity to a high level, in my opinion. And I think that is only possible to due to the things that I cut out and the things that I immersed myself in, to the point where I now can say it like repetition. Certain lines I just know off the top of my head. Like, you shouldn't know like gangster rap off the top of your head. Like, think about that. Like, certain lines just put you in a state of being, like put you in a energy state that is just low, and it's just you don't even need that. Like I remember certain rap lines, I remember them in my head, and I'm like, I wish I didn't, because it's like they're just stupid. They're just stupid, and that's how I think about certain music. Certain music with like derogatory things within them, calling women whores and sluts and this and that, and all that type of stuff. It plays on your subconscious because these things repeat continuously. So to get rid of that stuff in your mind, to submerge it deep within your mind, so you don't even think about that stuff anymore, because you kind of can't get rid of it. It's there, but you can use it as a counterbalance to everything else. Like you can use that type of stuff as a way to get to the good easier. Um, the Dhammapada, the Tao Te Ching doesn't really talk about this type of stuff. That's more so my philosophy. The Dhammapada and the Tao Te Ching kind of give you like it expands your perception on reality. It gives you like a supreme perception on reality, where it's like a lot of what it says kind of seems like it doesn't make any sense. Like, how can you live like that? It doesn't make any sense. But the more you start to see, or more you start to little by little enact the things that it wants you to do, you begin to realize what it's trying to say. You begin to realize the dynamics of life itself, like when you live in reality and not in your head, not in your wants and dreams and desires, like when you live here and you participate truly by obeying like your inner conscience and all of this, not abandoning yourself. Like you reach this level of flow state where things aren't hard, things are what they ought to be. And it's hard, sometimes it's hard to like realize that, like a lot of the appreciation of life is locked away in just doing what you've been avoiding, being a good steward of your life. A lot of the joy is in there. Um, and Dharmapada, Tao Te Ching helps you in the progression to that, to like the supreme understanding. Um, I would say to the outside world, or to people that don't understand that perception, you going up to them and talking to them about this perception, to the average person, it's like talking a different language. It's like talking a different language and coming from a different culture, and now you're in front of somebody and they don't know what to do with you, and you don't know what to do with them, because you kind of just don't fit in the way at which society was kind of just set up to be. So you're just an anomaly. That's if you really embed these things, these ethics, these ways of life into your life. They kind of like repel people that are not on that frequency, and the people that are, they get they get they get pushed to you. So it's a good thing, and it's the same way if you was to be about like some other stuff. The more you embed that modality, that frequency, that ideology, that perception of reality into your reality, the more you will cast out things that don't match up with that reality, and only see things that link up with that reality. For example, you ever looked for your keys and they were right in front of you, but you thought the keys were over here somewhere, so you was over here looking, even though the keys are there in your periphery. So like on a deeper level, your subconscious knows where your keys are. It's just that you consciously refuse to allow your perception. You consciously are refusing to allow those keys to be in your perception, because you think they're over here, right? And they're not. They're right in front of you. It's like that. it's like that. But some other books that really, I would say, really helped me over the years. There's this author by this. Is how you know I love this guy's books, or love this book. I know his name, Dr. Bruce Bynum, MD, right? And he has this book called Melon. What's it called? Dark Light Consciousness, Melanin and the Luminous Nature of Reality, or something like that. If you go Dark Light Consciousness, Dr. Bruce Bynum, it'll pop up. Man, that book is an endless reservoir of good information. It's made by this black guy, by a black doctor who took the time to research all pretty much all of spirituality, pretty much all of spirituality, and bring it all into the 21st. And then he breaks down everything, breath work, um, theological understandings, and how that stuff can be translated back into the future, um, um, dynamics of melanin in the body. And not, it's not like a one of those, you know, super black conscious books. It's not one of those. It's really a credit to humanity, the book, because it does a good job of breaking down complex spiritual terminology and bringing those practices into the 21st, explaining them in such a way where you can now take what you want and develop your own way of doing things. And you can use that book to really learn how to do breath work, learn how to tap in with your conscious mind, learn what to focus on, learn what not to focus on. All of the, like, you can learn a bunch of different meditation techniques and yoga techniques, right? And through that, develop a deeper understanding with your body. Um, my spiritual journey has taught me that it's taught me that just learning your emotions, like building a relationship with your emotions, it does something. It does something profound. It, like, shedding down these idealistic barriers to your own self is profound. Um, what do I mean by this? I mean, when you're upset, when you're sad, when you're angry, when you're any emotion, 90% of the time you think that you are that way because of something that happened, some reaction. You're reacting to something outside of you. But the truth is, it is your energy. It was always your energy. Somebody, yes, somebody triggered you, right? But the trigger is embedded in you. The explosion was something that was latent in you. You know, the trigger could have been a rock falling on that trigger, a foot, a piece of debris, a tree, a hard gust of wind could have let that trigger off, right? It could have, anything could have perceptually caught your mind to figure out this, hey, this right here is a trigger. And you need to know that your emotions are yours and they're not necessarily for anyone else. They're yours so that you can develop a relationship with your energy, with your soul, with your subconscious. All these things are low key the same thing. Your subconscious, your soul, your energy, it talks to you through your emotions, talks to you through the vibe that you get, that the 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 feeling that you have in your presence, and then from there thoughts begin to arise in the mind, and then you get caught up, and now you're in the narrative of the thoughts themselves. And this is like, you learn about this type of stuff in the Dhammapada. And this book by Bruce Bynum, he's giving you techniques that you can use to quell the mind, quiet the mind, focus the mind, bring the mind into equanimity with the body, right? He's giving you like tools, literally tools, and telling you medically why they work and how they work. And it's accurate information. It's awesome information. So check that book out. We'll talk more on everything we spoke on, but I wanted to just talk on a few books. Um, a couple honorable mentions. I would say like that book by Miyoto Musashi, the Book of the Five Rings, I think it's called. Very good book. That book is good because it teaches you like what energy state you are supposed to be when you're cutting down someone. When you're what energies how are you supposed to approach combat in general, like on a mental level, so that you actually win? What are you supposed to be thinking? What is the dynamics of combat? Not only in weaponry, but in life itself, in energy itself. He gets in he's not it's a book about swordplay, like how to be a good swordsman, and he goes into like techniques and stuff. But it's the real jewel of that book is the deeper understanding of the human being on like a profound level of understanding. He talks about combat like it's a play, and flow state is something that you tap into by focusing the mind. Like, so he's taking like the things that, like, he's taking a lot of Eastern philosophy things that you see in Buddhism and Confucianism, and he's applying that to the sword, to the way and the life of the sword. So I very much recommend that book. That book, for the things that it will leave you stewing on, it's quite profound. You have to do it just for that. It will leave you stewing on these things that it says forever. That book is one of those books that it could connect to you like how the Dhammapada, the Tao Te Ching connected to me. But I just like that was one of those books that was very good to read. Another book, I would say, Sun Tzu, The Art of War. That was a very good book. It was a good book because it taught you the dynamics of interpersonal interpersonal dynamics in like a group setting. Um, how do you lead an army of men? What are you supposed to do? Like how are you supposed to approach something like that? How are you supposed to defeat an enemy in war? A lot of the things that Sun Tzu talks about can be 100% correlated right back to business. Like almost everything he says is business. So like mastering that book is mastering the social dynamics of business, pretty much. Even down to like the tactics can be correlated back to business. So I really do recommend that book if you're in the business world. Another book that I'll recommend, like if you're in the business world or you're in that corporate world, the books to read are Miyamoto Musashi book, The 48 Laws of Power, um, the book I just mentioned, and honestly, and this is another honorable mention, The Prince by Machiavelli. Now, if you can see the dynamics of the books I'm giving you to read, on one side it's like infinite light, and on the other side it's like really dark. Like Machiavelli is really dark in the sense of he's just very, you never, there is not a book, I've never really read a book that was as truthful. Like there's an odd truthfulness to The Prince. A grimy, cold, super true. Like if you gave somebody The Prince as their first book to read, I feel like if you gave somebody The Prince, like say you were somebody's father, and you gave this book to a kid to read, like say you've prepped the child to be a good at reading, and then you gave him that book to read, and then like for like a whole summer y'all sit down and talk about that book, like every afternoon y'all just go hard in talking about that book. Like you go hard talking about it. You you go as far as to go to like mini conventions, or you may go find some program at some college. You go and have the child sit down and they hear about this book. That is such a huge impression in somebody's life, to get access to that book and the revelations of that book and how people think about that book, and how other people, how they feel, and how that low-key may be how you feel, and then how you can see how that dynamic is casted out in society just by the dynamics of somebody embodying how you feel about a book and having the balls to talk about it in society, bringing it to the crowd for scrutiny instead of holding it as like some grandiose treasure in the mind, something that you have found and no one else can know, no one else can draw from this except for like. There's so much power in just demystifying something like that at such a young age. Like I imagine that sometimes, like what if I got a hold of these books when I was like 10, and I had somebody with a truly developed and mature mind like myself right now, to really give me these books and then to guide me through these books so I don't end up making stupid mistakes trying to follow certain things, you know? Because I think that's part of the ride of with these books, is that as a human, we're naturally curious, right? And we want to like push the boundaries. We want to do things like enact the things we see in a book. And if you go out and try to enact a lot of the things in Machiavelli, boy, shit, it's crazy. That's crazy. um, but I'm getting beside the point. The Machiavelli book. The reason why I think it's a great book is because it breaks down things that no book breaks down. No book breaks down the things that book breaks down, and tells you the cold, honest truth, like how that book tells you. It's a very good book for just telling you the cold, honest truth. And I love that. I love books that are like that. That book is more cold and honest than like the Tao Te Ching. The Dhammapada is more on the level of Machiavelli, but it's coming from like infinite light, while Machiavelli is basically infinite darkness. Like pretty much. It's good. I think it's good to understand both of those aspects as a human being that has to live a life full of decisions, that sometimes you have to make morally gray decisions. Sometimes you have to play this game because you're in it, and sometimes you can just choose not to play the game at all and take the 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 position of like a bodhisattva, right? But in order for you to take a position of a bodhisattva is that you have to truly understand the concepts of a bodhisattva. You have to truly understand them. Their terminology, their concepts are truly embedded in you, that when the moment arises, you can turn to that as a reservoir of understanding. For thousands of years, for example, the story of the Odyssey has been told, and that has been used as a moral framework within the English language. You understand? Like that story and it being told around campfires and to people for thousands of years, and the way that it's told, that story for the English people, it created a baseline for perception, like this idea of Zeus's law, right? That kid created a baseline for reality itself. Human beings that knew that story and speak this language want to reenact the story, want to reenact the customs, want to bring about this way of living so that we can live in a better world. When you read books, you kind of channel the book is channeling itself through you in a lot of ways. Like when our author like George R. R. Martin, he makes Game of Thrones, all of those characters, think about all of the stories, all of the ideas, that if you just know all of Game of Thrones, if you know all of Game of Thrones, you pretty much know everything you need to know about the the English perception. Like there's a there's like an English medieval perception of life that's caked in, deeply caked in as a baseline to all of what Game of Thrones has to offer as a unique story experience, right? There's this baseline perpetual, we're in the medieval times for like 500 years and we can't seem to get out of here. And this is just the age, right? And in this age, dragons rule the skies, seven kingdoms descend a third. And you see outrageous similarities to your own world, but from a perspective never before seen. Like, for example, in Game of Thrones, um, when Daenerys took over Meereen, there was a red priestess that showed up, and they basically was making an agreement. A priestess was making an agreement with a conqueror that, hey, um, we will spread tales of you as the princess who was promised and bring order to your city. So you see how that moves, like, because she has the queen's word, she now has the power of the Unsullied and everything. Like she can now go to an Unsullied and go, "Hey, I need you to clear out this area. We're gonna do something." Like she has power because she made this agreement. But this is how spiritual people in the past have made um, major strides in gaining and maintaining power, by doing things like that, taking advantage of the elevation of a conqueror who needs order. So you use what you can use, your mouthpiece, your auditory, your gift of the gab, to ensure a certain level of order. And if you lose, and it's a mutual beneficial agreement. And like you can't understand these things unless you've like lived that life, watched some story that articulated that, or read the Machiavelli that tells you directly what that is. In the Machiavelli, they talk about some situation where, like, say you have a revolting area and you have somebody that you don't you don't like, right? Put that person you don't like in a position to fail so that you get rid of you if he succeeds, you get rid of the rebellion, so you get what you want. If he fails, you get rid of an annoying political opponent. Like little things like that, Machiavelli will talk to you about. Certain hard truths about religion itself, Machiavelli will talk to you about. Um, and at the end of the day, it will literally arm you with information. Um, and you can use it as a defense as well. Another book I can I want to mention is I've read so many books over the years, so it's they all kind of blur together. Um, the Art of Not Giving a Fuck. That is a very good book, and I recommend that book for a person that's overthinking. If you're an overthinker, I recommend The Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Um, and take it for someone that is an overthinker. That book kind of puts everything in perspective, especially that last chapter. That last chapter was one of the greatest last chapters of a book of all time, because it really did it put the whole book into perspective. And that was one of those books that I read from start to finish. Like I read that book. I sat down and read that book. I don't know, in my life at that time, I think um I just quit my job. I if I'm not mistaken, I just quit my job. I just broke up with my ex-girlfriend at the time that I was with for like 7 years, right? So it was a real crazy situation, man. And I wanted to read that book cuz I felt something in my body told me like, yo, this book had something that I needed. So I read that book. I got the book and read it. Man, that book, I just read the book. It's one those that book is one of those books where I can explain to you why it's a good book, but by like the first 5 chapters, you're gonna understand why I mentioned this, and I told you specifically you who has like this hard time with your thoughts, overthinking stuff like that. Read that book. Um, what was that other book? Oh man, it was like the art of. It was a book about procrastination. I think it was called the art of. I forgot how it. Oh my god! If I remember it, I'll let y'all know. Another book. Let me see if I can dig up another book. And these are basically self help books. I'm not even getting into like other genres. I'm not even gonna get into other genres right here because it can get crazy. It can get really crazy. Um. Oh yeah, I remember Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That was one of the very first books I read as a kid. I never read the full book. I read like bits and pieces, but it was a profound book because I never thought like that. I never understood, and it was one of those first times I kind of like low key realized. I didn't realize on like a conscious perceptual level. I realized on a subconscious level that hey, books can just offer you just different ways of thinking. Like I knew that subconsciously, but I just never it never really clicked. It never clicked consciously. But that book really opened my eyes. That book, The Secret, those two books kind of really opened my eyes to like certain things, and I'm not like really living life. Life is like kind of coming at me, and I'm just assimilating ideas and living within them. Versus like I've stepped back enough where life can come at me and I can see how I'm interacting and make decisions. Like I'm at that level, or maybe a little farther back now. But I think this video has been long enough. I don't want to keep going. I'm probably gonna make another video right after this. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna even edit this. I don't think I need to. I don't really say anything that bad. And I think it's better off if, like I said before, I think we're in this day and age where it's good to see the inconsistencies of man, the 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 problems, the issues, all of it, because we're gonna come to a point where all of it's gonna be gone. And I think in that world, let me not get into it, but thank you so much for watching. Until next time, deuces.